I was on Big J's channel. I talked a little bit about HARP technology. Let me play a little bit of this, and then I want to discuss.
But because the gas in the upper atmosphere is much less dense, the particles are much farther apart and remain separated for much longer. With all these free electrons floating around, the high atmosphere becomes conductive, starting at around 60 kilometers, peaking intensity at 300 kilometers, and then by the time it gets to 1,000 kilometers, it's dropped almost to nothing, where the atmosphere becomes too thin and then the vacuum of space takes over. In fact, the ionosphere separates into three layers called the D, E, and F layer, with D being at the lowest altitude, rising up to F at the highest altitude. Because these layers are conductive, they interact with electromagnetic waves like radio broadcasts from the surface. Depending upon their frequency, some radio waves will be absorbed, some will bounce off the electron layer and be reflected, and some will pass right through with little resistance. As these layers are created by the sun's energy, they can change dramatically from day to night, summer to winter. And in fact, the lowest D layer only exists in the daytime and completely disappears at night. They're also affected by high solar activity and solar flares, and thus affect radio transmission similarly. HARP uses up to 3.6 megawatts of high-frequency radio signals in the 2 to 10 megahertz range to excite and heat the gas molecules in a small area of the ionosphere directly above the facility. It does this with the main instrument, the IRI, or the Ionospheric Research Instrument. This is the heater. It's a phased array radio transmitter with a...
So this is HARP technology, and right now, or it was, as of 10 years ago, this HARP technology was in Alaska, and when they were running these waves, right, they were bouncing into the ocean, and that's when you would hear about dolphins and whales beaching themselves and dying on the beach because it messed with their sonar, their natural sonar in their body and their heads. So it messed with that. It also messed with birds. Birds would literally fly, and flocks of birds would fall out of the sky, just fall out of the sky and die. Like, it messed with their what's the word I'm looking for, because my brain has gone dead. Their flight patterns. It messed with their flight patterns. It also messed with bees. It messed with certain insects. It messed with, I mean, I could go on and on and on. It messed with moose. It made moose literally fall dead, and different animals in Alaska. So notice that they said that this thing was like it's like a heater, right? This HARP heats up to put these negative charges or ions into the atmosphere. You got to read up on it. But anyways, when Big J asked me, do I think that global warming is a natural effect? No. Do I think that we could do better? I told him yes. I think that we could do, we could create power structures that are from renewable energy, wind, solar, blah, 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 right? We talked about salinization and water being taken from the oceans, the ice caps that are melting in the North and the South Pole, and taking that water that is flooding land masses and stuff, and you can take that and use that water in places where there's droughts. So like on the West Coast, East Coast, or what have you. We talked about that. They could build salinization plants, have them solar power ran in California, and California could pull themselves out of debt with sending that water to states like states like Arizona and Nevada, all of California, Utah. Like, I mean, they could do a lot of stuff. And then in return, you could have these farmers that, produce animals that, can feed America. I mean, there's so many different things you can change the position in America for the better, but we don't do that. We don't do that. We don't think about that. But let me get back to this HARP technology. So HARP also is a weather changing machine as well. I know that this sounds like some conspiracy theory stuff, but if you read up on it, and when it talks about heating up the ionosphere, right? The ionosphere is where rain comes from. So what happens in a storm? You have a cold front and a heat and a cold front. And then with the two mixtures, you produce rain. You produce all these different sort of storm systems. Is it possible to have a fake rainstorm? Yeah. Is it possible for them to be able to do this? I mean, people talked about chemtrails for a long, long time, right? I don't want to get into all that. That's like another rabbit hole. But I'm just talking about this technology because I asked people to read up on HARP technology. Now, this technology stemmed from Tesla initially. Like, this HARP technology was in some of the documentation notebooks that Nikola Tesla, some of his inventions, this all stems from that. All of this stuff stems from that. Nikola Tesla said that he got this information from alien beings, right? Beings that were not from this earth. In his notes, people that documented things he said to them, this is one of the things he said. But anyways, I want to get more into this, but I don't want to get I want you to watch. Let me see. Let me see. Just a moment. Gosh. Hold on. Let me see. Go look this video up. Or look this channel up. Anyways, I want to play more, but I better not. Anyways, go look at that video. Go find that video. Go read up on it. Go listen and think to yourself, do you think that all of the things that we're experiencing is because of global warming? No, it's because of man-made technology.